Yes, sir. The sports writers have spoken. The BBWA has cast all their votes, 425 in total. And congratulations to Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones. They are headed to Cooperstown, elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame by the Baseball Writers Association of America. I am part of that. I cast a vote. I voted for both those players. Those results came out Tuesday night, which is last night as we're recording this, and figure out doing an analysis on my ballot, my first ballot, and I'll give you some of my thoughts and kind of break down my ballot, how my guys did, the people I voted for, a little bit of my process. I'm not going to dig too deep into that because a month ago I announced my ballot right here on the ManOn2nd YouTube channel. Encourage people to go if they want to know my complete process, go back and you could see that where I talk about in full how I came to my conclusions, the merits, what I thought about the guys in the PED, allegations and so forth. That's all explained there. But let's dive right into this ballot. First, before we do that, please like, subscribe to the channel, hit the hype. I guess hype's a big thing now. That helps grow this. The ManOn2nd YouTube channel is doing great. And we're going to show more podcasts and so forth. And I'm just going to kind of dive in. First of all, as I kind of break it in, let me call up my ballot. This is, and then we'll get into how the results came in and what this means for my vote next year. Because as you can see here, I voted for 10. We're allowed to vote for 10, no more than 10, 0 to 10. I saw where a couple of writers voted for nobody. They just submitted a blank ballot, feeling no one was worthy. That's their prerogative. 27 names on this ballot. I voted for 10. I used that. I just kind of briefly, I kind of will, as often as possible, vote for 10. And just kind of my process in general. I list my list 1 through 10, how I ranked them. As you see, there's no order. They're listed alphabetically, and you just throw the check mark where it will. But for me, I voted for Beltran and Jones were 1, 2. And my 1 and 2 guys they're expected to get in now or in a year or so. Kind of my 3, 4, 5 could be in that 3 to 5 year window. 6, 7, 8, kind of in that 6 to 8 year window. 9 and 10 or 10 exactly could be really coming down to the wire in the 10th year of their eligibility if they should stay on the ballot. So as you see, the 2 I voted for were Beltran and Jones. They got in, but I also voted for Cole Hamels, who was first time on the ballot. He was the only first-time ballot guy I voted for. Felix Hernandez, I had him on there. I had Andy Pettit. Manny Ramirez is 10th year. He will be off the ballot, did not get in. Manny A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, I voted for him. I voted for Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, and David Wright. And so let's kind of look into it. Obviously, they need to reach 75% of the vote to get in. Oh, first, let's note, as a longtime writer at MLB.com, the MLB.com writers were not allowed to be in the BBWA for about 14 or so years of my tenure. We finally got in I think it was 2015. And then we had to wait 10 years to cast our first vote. So there we are for the class of 26. So you saw that in the spike in number of total voters because MLB.com had this wave of, so people may want to know why last year 394 ballots were cast. This year, 425. So that just shows you how many writers at MLB.com waited a while, had already been doing this. We're proud to have a vote, even better late than never. But that's the way it goes. Kind of my thoughts were, I see where some people get criticism for voting for, a player to kind of a hat tip. And I see that creates some angst from some of the fans who they're like, oh, this is why there shouldn't be 10 on the ballot. Now, keep in mind, a couple of years ago, there were 15. Now it's 10. I'll tell you this much. If I find that there's somebody I want to vote for to acknowledge a good career, you could put 5 names on this list. You could put 2. and I will not jeopardize the people I think are most deserving on that ballot or I have the strongest conviction. But I also am going to give myself that flexibility because I would tell you now, as someone who covered the Marlins for many years, but not just for that, obviously weighs in heavily. But I covered Josh Beckett, Mike Lowell winning a World Series title, Juan Pierre included. All three guys had great careers, not Hall of Fame careers, but I would have given them my 10th, vote. Based on how the ballot looked. Now, I didn't have that opportunity, so I'd have to go back and look to see, and I'd see nothing wrong with it. If people want to, vote for Nick Markakis and give him a vote to acknowledge, I think that's perfectly okay. People disagree. That's fine. It doesn't validate your ballot, in my opinion, any more than if you sent a blank ballot in because you felt no one's deserving. So if you sent, let's say, ballot of 2 this year where Beltran and Jones are there and didn't check any other name on that ballot, that means next year you're planning on voting for no one, unless you have a complete change of heart. But that's how other people vote. This is kind of how I do it. And like my good friend Kevin Kernan said, this is my ballot, not yours. You don't like it, well, go through the legwork, get a vote yourself, and then you can vote however you want. So I will stick with that. So that's voter prerogative as well. Now, let me remove this ballot, and I'm going to throw up there the ballot and how the results came in. As you see, Carlos Beltran, 84.2% in his 4th year. He is in the Hall of Fame now. Andruw Jones in his 9th time on the ballot, 78.4%, barely got in, 75%. So, yeah, he gets in. And congrats to Andruw Jones. And then interesting, because Chase Utley right now at 59.1% in his 3rd year on the ballot. Chase is in an excellent spot to get into the Hall of Fame either next year or the year after. So, and I think it helps Chase Utley the fact that Jeff Kent got in. I know that there was a different committee, the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee voted for Jeff Kent, and Utley has a higher career WAR than Kent. So if you're an analytics person, it's more than just home runs. Obviously, the peak years are what's carrying in Chase. So looks very strong for Chase. Obviously, he was on my ballot. Andy Pettitte in his 8th year up to 48.5%, with just 2 more years to go. It might be a tough climb for Andy, but definitely gained momentum. Felix Hernandez, who I did vote for, King Felix in his 2nd year on the ballot up to 46.1%. I think in the next, maybe 3 years, I think momentum is there for King Felix to get in. And this is going to get tricky for me because Alex Rodriguez, now I voted for A-Rod. I understand and I explained it all in the other podcast. So please go there. I'm not going to repeat myself on it. But this is where I'm coming in I'll get down to A-Rod in a second, but do I vote for him next year or the year after? I will kind of give my thoughts on that. Manny Ramirez, I did vote for Manny. I knew he wasn't going to get any shot, 38.8%, 10th final year. Manny comes off the ballot. Bobby Abreu, I did not vote for Bobby Abreu. Let's see, he is in his 7th year on the ballot, 30.8%. Jimmy Rollins in his 5th year, 25.4%. It's going to be a hard climb for Jimmy, but I did have him there. Cole Hamels, good showing for first time, 23.8%. He gets on. Dustin Pedroia, he gets in his 2nd year, 20.7%. Mark Burley, who I did cover 1 year with the Marlins, 20% at 6th year. Omar Vizquel, who was one of those guys on the border. Do I vote for him? 9th year on the ballot, 18.4%. So he has literally no shot. David Wright and Francisco Rodriguez K-Rod, they kind of rounded out of those over the 5%. David Wright in his 3rd year at 14.8%. If David Wright does get in, he's going to be one of those 9th, 10th years eligible. Same thing with K-Rod, who is in his 4th year. He got 11.8%. So what does this mean for next year for my process? And that's all I can deal with. ManOn2nd has that vote. I can't control everybody else. But what does this mean for my ballot? So just by the process of elimination, Beltran and Jones come off the Joe Frisaro ballot. So that gets me down to 8. And as noted, Manny Ramirez, 10th final year, he's off the ballot. That gives me 7 guys. If I vote exactly the same, 7 are automatically on my ballot. I did say this, that, I did wrestle with this. This was the hardest vote I had. I had on number 10 this year for me was Jimmy Rollins or Dustin Pedroia. And I know people might make the comp that Dustin Pedroia and Chase Utley have very similar resumes. Okay, I get all that. But if you just look at, that, I kind of gave the nod to Jimmy Rollins. I know he's a shortstop compared to second baseman, because I thought with his legs, he impacted games just a little bit more than Dustin Pedroia. But I also did say Dustin Pedroia was number 11. I will vote, all things considered, and I have the privilege to do this again next year. Dustin Pedroia is on my ballot. So I'm keeping the, barring something, unforeseen, I'm keeping the 7. That gets me now to 8 with Dustin Pedroia, recognizing his, brilliant, kind of 2014 stretch where he was just an amazing player. He was a former MVP, had a 304, 371, 461, slash line in those year, in that 7 year or whatever 7-8 year peak era for Dustin Pedroia. So that's kind of where I am on that. Now, entering the ballot next year for the first time will be Buster Posey. So Buster Posey, obviously, he's gonna gain a lot of attention from me. I have not yet completely, done my deep dive with Buster, but all indications are I probably will vote for him. But again, not going to lock myself in until I, do my due diligence and so forth. So that would get me to 9. So now, what do I do? Do I go with, with like A-Rod? Do I bring A-Rod back? A-Rod's in his 5th year. He jumped from, let me get my math here, I think he only jumped like 2%. I think he was like 38% last year, and he went up to 40% this year. So yeah, A-Rod was 37.1% a year ago, and he's at 40, he's at 40% this year. Do I kind of throw in the towel for A-Rod and say, I doubt he's getting in, so will I pull my vote on A-Rod and vote for someone else? Do I vote for, let's say, like a Mark Burley, let's say, or somebody else, or Bobby Abreu, or someone like that, or K-Rod, or because it's a tough argument. It's a tough argument. You got a lot of guys there. Like I said, Vizquel will have one more year. When he's at 18.4%, that's not going to get him in at that. David Wright, and I knew that was the long game. I wasn't voting for David Wright thinking, oh my God, immediately he's going to get in. Case will have to be built for him over time. But I think so that's kind of my thought process there. And let's see, like I said, it seems like with Chase Utley at 59.1% in a really, really good spot. So this is going to be interesting. What's kind of some feedback? I'm welcome to it. People be respectful if you want to comment, make suggestions or whatnot. Who I'm missing? I know some people like Torrey Hunter. He obviously didn't get in. Oh, I just wanted, before we get out of here, I'm going to look at those who didn't meet the threshold of the 5%, so they drop off the ballot. Ryan Braun came the closest, first year on the ballot, 3.5%. Edwin Encarnacion, he got 1.4%. He's off the ballot. Shin Shu Chu got 3 votes. Matt Kemp got 2. Hunter Pence, Rick Porcello each got 2 votes. Alex Gordon and Nick Markakis each got a vote. Gio Gonzalez, Howie Kendrick, and Daniel Murphy were on 0 ballots. So we shall see. Next year, it's not going to be a slam dunk ballot, but I think it's a good process, and I think that I try to take into consideration what fans like, and I think that fans want to see. If they go to Cooperstown, they want to see people in there. I know there's the argument of the Hall of Very Good. I think, if you want to get that technical, no knock on two childhood heroes of mine, but Ralph Kiner, if you look at his numbers, and Phil Rizzuto, very pedestrian. I know they got in different ways, but they're in the Hall of Fame. You could also make the case that not only, based on how they did on the field. I grew up in New York, getting to be pretty old now by the standards of those following the game. But grew up listening to Yankee games and Met games that had the broadcast career, the broadcast crews included with Yankees, Phil Rizzuto, with the Mets, Ralph Kiner. So I think that they, their impact on the game makes them highly deserving because they help mold people like myself. I may not have gone into sports writing or had the passion to do this type of career if it wasn't for the Ralph Kiners and the Phil Rizzutos, the people who are explaining the game through their analysis, their personality, that help mold me into who I became, for better or worse. But so that's just kind of my thoughts there. Again, so like I said, it looks like I'm probably down to 2, maybe 3 spots, unless I have a change of heart on anybody currently on my list. But that's pretty good opening my window. I like to be transparent. I don't hide a lot. I'm not going to be not attention seeking by, voting for, an off the wall guy. I'm not also going to be the one who goes out of their way and not vote for Derek Jeter, let's say, to be the one guy to not give him the perfect score. That doesn't matter to me as much. If guys get 93, 94% of the vote, so be it. I think too much is made over that. If people don't give the consensus 100%, let people, people have their logic. I disagree with a lot of it. People have their ways of going about doing it, but that's their vote. They earned that right. And I feel I've earned my right as well with more than 20 years of covering the big leagues and still doing so through various my channels and my platform, so doing it more on my terms now after I retired from MLB.com. So with that, just again, final thoughts. I'll throw this guy up here. The obligatory, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hype up this stuff. A lot of fun stuff ahead as we're building ManOn2nd, the YouTube channel, getting forward. The high school season's getting started. The college season, I'm going to spend a little more time at like Nova Southeastern University. I pretty much focus on the games in Broward County, give my opinions and so forth with my videos, getting a lot of exposure for a lot of these young athletes. And just a side note here, it's funny, how things break down. During my lengthy career covering the Marlins for MLB.com, I saw them play the Red Sox several times, and while watching them, I actually witnessed and covered Manny Ramirez hitting a home run. And what I'm doing now at ManOn2nd, a couple of years ago, when Luca Ramirez was at American Heritage, I covered him hitting at least one home run. And Luca currently is in the Los Angeles Angels organization, drafted in the 2024 draft. And then another one of Manny's kids, Manny Ramirez Jr., and I just put the video up, saw him in a scrimmage a week ago, and Manny Jr. hit a home run. So, and I know Manny was there. He's sitting back in the corner there. He was there watching. Dad was proud to see his son hit a homer. So ManOn2nd has covered, and probably in a very unique club, because I know, a lot of people saw a lot of Manny homers, but I don't know how many people in media, at least, have seen a Manny Jr., and Luca, Manny and 2 of his boys hitting home runs. I did also had the pleasure of, I did have that father-son situation with Todd Hollinsworth, good friend, who has done podcasts with me and been supportive of the channel, covering Todd with the Marlins, seeing him homer. And then seeing his son Tug, who's playing college ball now, but when he was at Cardinal Gibbons, I saw him hit a home run and wrote about that. So it's kind of fun to write about father and son, both homering. Those are always good little side note stories that I like to bring to my audience as well. But with that, we're not going to beat this too much more. Again, the thoughts, I'm open to suggestions as I kind of evolve as a Hall of Fame voter. I stand by my ballot. I'm proud of it. I think, congratulations to all who voted. Obviously, congratulations to Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones for being members of the 2026 class. And I look forward to the 2027 class. But we will dig more into that. Let's put a ribbon on this and turn the page and move on to next year. Thanks again to everyone for supporting the channel, tuning in, and we will catch everyone in the next video.